Thank y'all for tuning in to Primitive Organic Garden today. I've been looking forward to this day for, I guess, about a week now. Today's the day that I get to blend up my lacto-fermented red Shishito peppers. So you can see I got a wide mouth mason jar here that I packed full of fresh Shishitos from the garden. And then we added a bunch of salt. I went with I think this time I actually used this cheap brand of pink Himalayan salt, and I had a really hard time getting it to dissolve in the water, which is strange. You can even see at the bottom there's still quite a bit of salt at the bottom that seemed to like undissolve itself from the water, which surprised me because salt's usually really soluble. This was super cheap. It's like $1.50. I probably should have been suspicious, but anyway, I mean, it tastes fine. I guess it tastes salty and all that, but I was surprised it didn't dissolve well. Other salts I've looked at, other pink Himalayan salts. I used to use sea salt, but now the ocean's full of plastic, so I don't use sea salt anymore. But I've heard that you shouldn't use regular iodized table salt. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. I tend to err on the side of caution with stuff like my Shishito peppers, because this is literally the best thing I've ever tasted in my life, and I don't want to screw it up. So I used water that I let dechlorinate. I let the water sit out for like a day until most of the chlorine and chloramines had evaporated. And like I said, I used some nice salt. I think this has been probably lacto-fermenting for about, I don't know, 8-9 days, something like that. I was only going to do 3 or 4 days because my house is very hot, but it didn't seem to be bubbling much after 3 or 4 days, and temperatures have been slightly cooler than usual lately, so I let it go for like a week. I like things extremely sour, so if it's a little on the sour side, that's fine. You could do this with just, a pint glass, but like I said, I'm very protective of my Shishitos, so I went ahead and did it the right way. Not the right way, but much more safe. I used glass weight. I actually used grape leaves first to weigh everything down, or keep everything under the brine, then put a glass weight on there, and then I put a one-way airlock, let air out, not let air in valve on there. So yeah, we're going to take this out and blend it up real quick. The more brine you add, obviously the thinner it's going to be. If you want a thick sauce, you want to drain off some of the brine before you blend it up. I want a thinner sauce just to make it go a little bit further. So yeah, I'm going to try to put the phone here for a second. Let me open this jar. Sometimes you'll see a tiny bit of like yeast or something on top. I thought I saw some last week, but it looks like the salt may have killed it. I do see a little bit of yeast here, but it's not a big deal. So we're gonna pull our glass weight out of here. Oh, I can't get it out. That's not good. That's not what I wanted to happen, because now when I have to fork this out of here, all the yeasts are going to turn sideways, and I was hoping to scoop them out. Well, of course this would happen when I'm filming, just making a big mess out of everything. My fingers are big, and this thing's tiny, and I can't get it out of there because it's slippery. Ah! Now all those stupid little yeasts are going everywhere. They don't hurt anything, they're harmless, I don't even think they contribute flavor, but it just looks gross. Let's see a little bit of the yeast there, no big deal. Those are the grape leaves. So somebody was telling me that grape leaves are full of tannins, so if you put grape leaves in any type of ferment, or simply in the salt brine, vinegar brine, anytime you're pickling something, if you use grape leaves, apparently there's some reaction that occurs with the tannins, and it keeps everything crisp and crunchy and not nearly as soft. Like I said, I want a thin batter, or a sauce, so I'm going to pour all this in there. Wow, the smell of that is just amazing. It's sweet and boozy. Actually, maybe that's a lot more brine than we need. It's tough to determine how much you want, because if you You know what? I should save some of this because I can always add it back in later. This looks like a lot of brine, so I'm going to pour a good bit of it off. And if I need to pour some of it back in later, I can do that. This is my new upside down blender food processor thing I just got recently, and I think it's really cool. At this point, you could add like some garlic or something too if you wanted to, and I do have some raw garlic from the garden, but I just kind of want to emphasize the flavor of the Shishitos, so I'm not adding anything else. See, I've poured off probably most of the brine now at this point. Like I said, I'll just add it back in later if we need to. So this is my cool upside down blender. Just got this off Amazon. It was like 20 bucks. Link Chef or something. So wow, it smells like alcohol. These peppers are very sweet, so I guess it's possible there's a little bit of alcohol in here, but I don't think the yeasts were the dominant microorganism in this. It was clearly the lactobacillus, which is what you want in a lacto-ferment. So you put this thing on, and then you just go for it. Uh-oh, we're plugged in, aren't we? Yeah, we're plugged in. What's the deal? Come on, Link Chef Chopper. I was just saying how cool you were. There we go. I could not use it for more than about 60 seconds at a time. I want this to be a really nice sauce. I don't want this to be chunky. I don't want this to be a salsa. I want this to be a sauce. I think that's as good as we're going to get, boys and girls. Let's take a look. I'm not joking when I said this is probably the best thing I've ever tasted in my life. And yeah, things always do taste better when they come straight out of your garden. But, that being said, it's just such a unique flavor that these peppers have when they're ripe. Nothing like anything I've ever tasted. I've lacto-fermented, habaneros and other peppers before, and I've made all kinds of different hot sauces, but the Shishitos just have this, like, rich, smoky, really interesting flavor. Every once in a while you get one that's a little bit spicy, like sometimes in the same plant. You have a plant that's got 30 fruits on it, and 2 of them are spicy, and the rest of them are sweet. It's kind of weird. Some of that could be environmental, but anyway, they're also full of sugar when you let them turn red, so the final product here is, it's almost like a slightly hotter version of a sweet and sour sauce. The Shishito is a Japanese selection of pepper. Not to say it's a Japanese pepper. Peppers are all from Central and South America, but when the first peppers were brought to Japan in the 1600s, they made a selection for the Shishito apparently at some point in time, and I'm not really sure what they were selecting for, but it's the greatest pepper I've ever tasted. So we're gonna just pour this sauce into a clean, I don't want to say sterilized, but it's a pretty much brand new wide mouth mason jar, and this can probably keep in the fridge for at least a year, maybe more. I think we ended up going with like a 5 or 6% salt brine or something like that. So this isn't quite as well blended as I would like it to be, but it seemed like I had reached a point where it wasn't getting any more homogeneous. So I guess this is really just a food processor, not a blender. I think last year or the year before when I made lacto-fermented Shishito pepper sauce, I used like a bullet blender, and it did get a little bit more liquid than this. But this is okay. Wow, it looks like I actually probably should have strained some of those peppers. There's more liquid in here than I would like. there's nothing I can do about that. So at this point, it's more of a thick hot sauce. It looks like a hot sauce, but the consistency here appears to be more similar to a hot sauce than sweet pepper sauce. But I don't know, if I cook with it, it'll thicken, and maybe over time it'll thicken. But anyway, thank you all for tuning in, and you can do these techniques with pretty much any pepper or any vegetable, lacto-fermentation. The keys you just want to think about are keeping all of your vegetables well under the salt brine. Don't let anything get exposed to the air. Let air out if you want with an airlock, but don't let oxygen in. Anyway, thank you all for tuning in.